Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss any update from RAU'S IAS Study Circle. Join the only official Telegram channel of RAU'S IAS Study Circle to get the relevant materials and important updates. Hello and welcome to the Daily News Simplified, the what, why, and how of the newspaper analysis from the Civil Services Examinations perspective. In today's session, we are going to discuss The Hindu Delhi edition dated 27th February 2022 and some important topics from the Indian Express Explained section from the last week. The topics to be discussed have been displayed on your screen and the timestamping of the same has been provided in the description box below. Now we will begin with our first topic, which is in relation to the upgradation of the judicial infrastructure. This topic has appeared in the context that recently Chief Justice of India N.V. Raman has said that there is a need to increase the number of judges in High Court as well as to upgrade the judicial infrastructure. It is not just about the money but about the implementation of multiple policies which can increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the judiciary in India. This topic falls under the General Studies Paper 2 syllabus of Mains under the subsection of the structure, organization and functioning of the executive and judiciary. Under this topic, we will deal with the components like what is the present status of judicial infrastructure in India, what are the reasons behind lagging of the judicial infrastructure, and what are the broader suggestions which can help us to revive the judicial infrastructure in order to deal with the increasing pendency of cases. But before coming to this analytical part, first we will move towards our constitutional part and let us look at the appointment and the conditions of the office of Judge of a High Court as given in our constitution. Article 217 clause 1 deals with the appointment of the judges of High Court. The constitution says that every judge of a High Court shall be appointed by the President by warrant under his hand and seal after consultation with the Chief Justice of India, the Governor of the state, and in case he is appointing the judge other than the Chief Justice, then the consultation of the Chief Justice of that particular High Court is also to be taken. Now, important point for you people is that the High Court judges are appointed by the President with consultation with the Chief Justice of India as well as the Governor of that particular state for which the High Court is concerned. Now, this is true for the judges as well as the Chief Justice of High Court. But if the other judges, that is excluding the Chief Justice of High Court is concerned, then the consultation with the Chief Justice of that particular High Court is also done. The second clause of Article 217 deals with the qualification for the appointment of judges of a High Court. The essential conditions for the one who wants to become the judge of High Court as per this clause, as per this article is, first, he should be the citizen of India. Second, he must have held a judicial office in the territory of India for at least 10 years or has for at least 10 years been an advocate of High Court or of two or more such courts in succession. So these are the three conditions. First, the citizen of India. Second is dealing with the 10 years of practice as a judicial officer in territory of India. And third is 10 years of practice as an advocate of one High Court or two or more such courts in succession. Now these articles are very important as far as the UPSC Prelims is concerned. Now we'll move towards our analytical part in relation to the today's topic. First, we will look at the present status of judicial infrastructure in India. The data suggests that the sanctioned strength of the judicial officers in our country is around 24,280. But on the other hand, the available judicial courtrooms or the halls which are available is just 20,143. So the point is, even if this complete strength is fulfilled, where will those judicial officers will sit? The second important point is that despite excessive focus on digitizing the government services as well as other things, the video conferencing facility available to our courts is just 27%. That means that just 27% of all the court complexes have video conferencing facilities. Out of all the judicial complexes existing in India, only 51% of those complexes have library facilities, and just 32% of them have separate record rooms. Now, you just imagine that around 68% of the judicial complexes do not have a separate record rooms. Just imagine the plight of the record keeping capacity of our judiciary. And the next disturbing fact is that 26% of all the judicial complexes do not have separate ladies' toilet. And you will also be surprised to know that many of the courts even today do not have gents' toilets. So my point is that whenever you have to think about the judicial infrastructure while writing your answers in mails, do not restrict yourself to just the legal infrastructure, because the social infrastructure, for example, the toilets, libraries, etc., are also important. But now we know that every year a lot of funds is dedicated to the judiciary by our government. That is why the article says that judiciary needs more high court judges, not just money. Because we know the data suggests that every year a lot of money is spent to upgrade the judicial infrastructure. But then the question arises that what are the reasons behind the plight of this lagging judicial infrastructure? The first reason is, despite giving a lot of money, there has been a gross underutilization of funds. Again, the data suggests that more than 50% of all the funds which has been dedicated to the judiciary remain unused. The second thing is the complicated processes which are involved in building the judicial infrastructure. Now, as far as the process of tender allocation is concerned, there are multiple agencies which are involved in it. For example, public work departments, district collector's office, building committee of the courts, and multiple other agencies. So what happens is, we all know that when number of agencies are involved in one particular task, there is a high chance of red tapeism, corruption, and bureaucratic stronghold. There is a huge lack of coordination among all these agencies which are involved in this process, and that is why the complications associated in this particular process results in delaying of the infrastructure projects. The third important reason is that there is no real-time basis performance evaluation. Once the tender has been allocated, for example, let's say that tender was allocated to build a library in, let us suppose, Delhi High Court. Now there is no continuous performance evaluation of that tender, which in turn results to lack of transparency on one hand and lack of accountability on the other hand. Now, if we go to the root of all these problems, several experts say that the major reason for all these things is that there is lack of one central agency to coordinate all these things. And here is where the suggestion lies. The Chief Justice of India from time to time has said that there is a need for the establishment of National Judicial Infrastructure Authority of India. Several experts have said that this National Judicial Infrastructure Authority of India will be responsible for budget allocation and overall coordination with respect to multiple activities and agencies involved at grassroots level to build the judicial infrastructure. Now, to preserve the judicial autonomy and to enhance the efficiency, the members of the High Court judges and the government officials will be the members of this particular authority. This is done in order to have a perfect coordination between the judiciary on one hand and the government on the other. Further, the Chief Justice of India should be the patron in chief of National Judicial Infrastructure Authority of India, and this body will work under the Supreme Court. So now let us revise this topic in brief once again. First, we'll look at the constitutional article which deals with the appointment and the conditions of the High Court judges. We looked that the High Court judges are appointed by the President with consultation of the Chief Justice of India and the Governor of the state. And in case of appointing the judges other than the Chief Justice of High Court, the consultation with the Chief Justice of that particular High Court is also done. Then we looked at some of the disturbing figures which are associated with the present status of judicial infrastructure in India, and we learned that we do not have to restrict only to the legal infrastructure, but we also have to understand the lack of social infrastructure in these judicial complexes. After that, we understood that what are the basic reasons behind the lagging infrastructure, and after analyzing all these three reasons, we came to a conclusion that there is a lack of one central agency to coordinate all these things. And in line with this, in the suggestion part, we looked that several experts, including the Chief Justice of India, has advocated for establishment of the National Judicial Infrastructure Authority of India for budgeting as well as central coordination. The Chief Justice of India is visualized as the patron in chief of this particular authority, and the members will include the High Court judges as well as the government officials. So now moving to our next topic. This topic is in relation to the Munich Security Conference and has appeared in today's The Hindu newspaper at page number 13. This topic is mainly relevant from the UPSC Prelims examination because the preliminary examination mentions the syllabus of current events of national as well as international importance. And the latest context in which this topic has appeared in newspaper is that recently, in the backdrop of Russian invasion of Ukraine, the Ukrainian president has appealed for the help at this very conference. So as I have already said that this topic is mainly relevant from the prelims section, that is why we will look at certain key facts which is related to the Munich Security Conference. The historical aspect of this conference is that it was started in the Second World War phase. Now, this historical backdrop was very interesting because there was a person called Ewald Heinrich von Kleist, which was anti-Nazi and who tried to assassinate Hitler. But he failed in assassinating him, and he was the one who founded the Munich Security Conference. The MSC began as an annual meeting, and the annual meeting takes place every year in the month of February. However, it began as an annual meeting between the West Germany and the Western European partner nations, US and Canada in 1962. The primary objective of the MSc was to make the sense of the international affairs in an age when weapons of mass destruction had become the part of the game. Now, as we all know that since the World War II, the weapons of mass destruction, for example, the nuclear weapons, came into role. We all are aware about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki attacks of the USA. And since then, multiple countries, for example, Russia, China, had become a nuclear power. So, in that very backdrop, that is the weapons of mass destruction, the primary objective of MSc was laid down to govern the international affairs. Now, this is a military based security conference. That is why the senior politicians, diplomats, military and security experts from NATO, as well as European Union and other countries like India, China, Japan, Iran, and Russia are invited to discuss the current issues in defense and security policies at this conference. However, one very important thing is that this is not an intergovernmental organization type of institution. It is an independent venue for policymakers and experts for open and constructive discussions about the most pressing security issues of the day and of the future. And as far as the present context is concerned, the most pressing security issue which the world is facing is the Russian Ukrainian conflict. That is why, in this very backdrop, we have discussed that the Ukrainian president asked for the help from the global community to counter the Russian invasion. So, this was a very brief topic, mostly relevant from the prelims section, and that is why this was not an analytical topic but a factual one. Now moving towards our next topic, which is from the Indian Express Explained section. This topic is from the Polity section and that too from the static part. This topic is in relation to the fundamental duties, one of the most important parts of our Indian Constitution and also UPSC examination. So the recent context that why this topic has been in news is in relation to a plea filed in Supreme Court by the petitioner. And in this very regard, the Supreme Court has issued notices to the center and states in a writ petition seeking the enforcement of the fundamental duties of citizens as enshrined in the Constitution of India. The petitioner in the petition has called Supreme Court to act in order to enforce the fundamental duties because the petitioner is of the opinion that many citizens are not aware about their fundamental duties, and in recent times there has been a growing trend to seek for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, but the adequate attention to the fundamental duties is not given. As far as the syllabus of the UPSC is concerned, this topic falls under the General Studies Paper 2 of Mains and the subsection of the Indian Constitution, Features, Amendments, Significant Provisions and Basic Structure. So in this very regard, in today's session, we will discuss the incorporation of the fundamental duties, the nature of the fundamental duties, the Supreme Court judgments on these, and all the fundamental duties which are enshrined in our Indian Constitution. So now let us begin our discussion. First of all, we need to understand that the fundamental duties were not present in the Indian Constitution since its beginning. They were incorporated later on via 42nd Amendment and subsequently via 86th Amendment. Presently, there are 11 fundamental duties. Out of these 11 fundamental duties, 10 duties were added by 42nd Amendment and the 11th duty was added by 86th Amendment. Now, with the help of the 42nd Amendment, Part 4A and Article 51A were inserted in Indian Constitution, and all the fundamental duties are the part of single article, that is Article 51A. Moreover, the idea to insert and incorporate the fundamental duties in India's constitution was taken from the Russia's counterpart. Now, first we need to look at what are the various fundamental duties in our constitution. Article 51 says that it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, national flag and the national anthem. That means that if you are not respecting your national flag, national anthem or the national institutions, you are not following your fundamental duty. The second duty is to cherish and follow the noble ideas which inspired our national struggle for freedom. But we all know that huge section of our society is not aware about the real principles, the values which were there during our national struggle for freedom. There has been a continuous politicization of the leaders as well. However, we need to restrict ourselves from going into those political areas, but we need to objectively identify that what were those principles which inspired our national struggle for freedom, and we should cherish and follow those ideas. The third fundamental duty is to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. And in this very line, the next duty is to defend the country and render the national service when called upon to do so. The fifth fundamental duty is in relation to the social fabric of our country. It says that every citizen of India shall promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood among all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, regional, or sectional diversities, and to renounce the practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Now, this is very important. We should perform our acts in such a way that they are not bounded, they are not restricted to the narrow domains of religion, language, region, or section. Moreover, we should respect our women also and renounce all the practices which are derogatory to their dignity. Further, in this very relation, it is also a fundamental duty to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture, and not just from the cultural sense but from the environmental sense also. It's our duty to protect and improve the natural environment, including the forests, lake, rivers, wildlife, and to have compassion for the living creatures. Now this fundamental duty gains a huge significance in today's period, whereby the climate change and the associated disasters have become reality. We need to understand and acknowledge this fact that it is not just the responsibility of our government to protect and preserve the natural environment, but it is yours and mine's individual duty also, as enshrined in the Constitution. Further, the Constitution also says that you have to develop a scientific temper, humanism, and a spirit of inquiry and reform. This is done in order to build the human capital of our country and to promote the objective decision making coming out of the traditional orthodox dogmas practices which are there in our society. Further, the Constitution says to safeguard the public property and to abjure the violence. The tenth duty is in relation towards the striving excellence in all the spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. Now, the fundamental duties till this part, that is the 10th fundamental duties, were incorporated by 42nd Amendment, and the last fundamental duty, that is the K, that is the 11th duty, was incorporated by 86th Constitutional Amendment Act. It says it is in relation to providing the education to children. It says that it is a duty of every parent or guardian to provide the opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, the ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. Now we should understand that what is the nature of these fundamental duties. First of all, there is a basic difference between the fundamental duties and fundamental rights. If the fundamental right is violated, it is justiciable in nature. That means that you can go to the court to enforce the fundamental rights. It is against the state. But the fundamental duties are non justiciable in nature. That means that you cannot go to the court directly that the fundamental duty is not been enforced. Second, these fundamental duties are not against the state. This is a positive concept and thus this is a duty towards the citizen of India. The third important thing is that many of the fundamental rights are available to the citizen as well as the people residing in India's territory. But the fundamental duties is restricted to the Indian citizen. That means the American citizen who is living in India is not bound by the fundamental duties. The second important thing is that despite their non justiciable nature, the courts can use the fundamental duties during the adjudication, and the court can uphold some law if it is meant to enforce the fundamental duty. And the third important thing is that fundamental duties are complementary to fundamental rights. We all know that there is a correlation between rights and duties because my duty is your right and your duty will be mine right. For example, if there is a fundamental duty to renounce the practices which are derogatory to women, that means if you are following this duty, you are protecting the right to life with dignity for some women. So that is why it is said that duties and rights are complementary. Without one, the other cannot survive. Now we should look at some of the statements or the judgment which Supreme Court has given. Supreme Court has said that the fundamental duties cannot be enforced only by the legal sanctions but also by the social sanction. There is a reason for it. If you closely analyze the fundamental duties, again we take the example of to renounce the practices which are derogatory to women. Now the law can only protect the dignity of the women once the crime has taken place. But the real solution lies at the grassroots levels. Why we cannot train our children, we cannot educate our children from the family, from the school levels, that it is good to respect every human being. The derogatory practices which are against women should be renounced. So that is why we should develop such a culture, such a social fabric that every person in this country has equal right, and that is why Supreme Court says that these duties can be enforced not just by the legal sanctions but also by the social sanctions. And in this very line, Supreme Court has also said that fundamental duties, though are non-justiciable in nature, but they are equally important as the fundamental rights. This is because of the complementary nature of the rights and duties which we have discussed. And that is why the fundamental duties cannot be overlooked. And because of this very argument, the court uses the fundamental duties while adjudicating several cases. So this was a static topic but very important topic, and the importance of this topic can also be gauged through the previous year questions which have been asked in the UPSC. For example, here I have taken two sample questions. One question is from the Prelims UPSC 2015 and the question said, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India is a provision made in, there are four options given and the correct answer is fundamental duties. Why? Because the third fundamental duties mentions this phrase, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Further, this topic has repeatedly appeared in mains also. For example, in mains 2008, UPSC asked, enumerate the fundamental duties incorporated in the Constitution after 42nd Amendment. Now to answer this, you need to memorize all these 11 fundamental duties. Moving on to our next topic. Now this topic is from the history and the culture section and is in relation to a very famous poet and a recent controversy which has arisen around him. The topic is in relation to the Narsingh Mehta, a very famous poet from the Gujarat region. The context of this topic is that there has been a recent controversy when the researchers in Gujarat have discovered a new species of a spider and named it after Narsingh Mehta. Though this name was kept in honor of Narsingh Mehta, however, many followers of Narsingh Mehta, especially the members of a Nagar community, which is a sub-caste group of a Brahman community, they have expressed their resentment because they feel that naming of a spider around some common famous personality, which has a huge significance in the Gujarati culture, is not well up to the mark. So in this very relation, now we will look at some of the key facts which is related to Narsingh Mehta. Now Narsingh Mehta was a 15th century Vaishnavite poet saint of Gujarat and is believed to be born in the Telaj area, which is in present day Bhavnagar district. He was born exactly in 1410 and he was a devotee of Lord Krishna and has penned more than 750 poems. Now, again, a very important fact for the prelims examination is that his writings were known as Pad in Gujarat, and most of his Pad were devoted to Lord Krishna. Further, Narsingh Mehta is also regarded as Adi Kavi, which means the first poet, as well as the Bhakt Kavi, which means the Devo poet. His bhajans are integral part of the Gujarat's cultural life, as we have already discussed, and even 6 centuries after they were written and are frequently performed in the popular Gujarati festivals. Now, the famous bhajan, which many of you might have heard, that is Vaishnavo Janato, was also written by Narsingh Mehta. And this bhajan also finds its huge relevance during our freedom struggle because this bhajan was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi during that period. So again, this was a very brief topic and a factual one from the preliminary perspective. The controversy is not of much relevant for the examination, but the key facts which are related to Narsingh Mehta, because you know that many a times the questions come from the Bhakti movement or the Sufi movement. So such type of poets, such type of philosophers become very important, not just from the examination point of view, but also we should be aware about our culture. Now moving towards the next topic, which is from the history section and is recently appeared in Indian Express Explained section. The topic is in relation to the Ahom Empire, which we all know was built in the present day of Assam. This topic talks about a famous warrior in the Assamese history, Lachit Borphukan, and the associated battles of Alaboi and Saraighat. The context of this topic is that recently Chief Minister of Assam, that is Hemant Biswa Sharma, has announced a number of projects in connection with the Lachit Borphukan and the battles of Alaboi and Saraighat. Lachit Borphukan was the Ahom military commander, and this year we are celebrating its 400th birth anniversary. Now if you go by this map, this particular area was dominated by the Ahom kingdom, and this particular area is the present day Assam. Now we will look at certain key facts related to the Lachit Borphukan's history. Now as we have discussed that Ahom kings dominated the present day area of Assam, and the period of this dominance was between 13th to 19th century. Lachit Borphukan, as we have again discussed, was a military commander of the Ahom forces, and he was present there when the Mughal Empire tried to annex this particular area. Between 1615 to 1682, the Mughal Empire made a series of attempts under Jahangir and then under Aurangzeb to annex the Ahom kingdom. In 1669, Aurangzeb sent Rajput Raja Ram Singh I to capture their territories. And in this very regard, the Battle of Alaboi was fought. This battle was fought on August 5, 1669 in the Alaboi Hills. Now this important fact, you should remember it, that there are Alaboi Hills in Assam. And in this very battle, the Lachit Borphukan was the military commander of the Ahom forces. Initially, the Ahom kingdom was dominating. However, with passing time, there was a full-scale assault by the Mughal emperor and the Rajput forces together against the Ahom soldiers, and it is estimated that around 10,000 of the Ahoms died in the battle. The second important battle was the Battle of Saraighat. Now, this had a different outcome. First of all, this battle was a naval battle which was fought in the rivers of Brahmaputra. This battle was fought in 1671 between the Mughal emperor led by Kachwaha king, that is Raja Ram Singh I, and the Ahom kingdom, which was again led by Lachit Borphukan. And in this battle, Ram Singh's army withdrew and Ahoms emerged victorious. Now you will be surprised to know that even to this date, to celebrate the Lachit Borphukan's victory, the best cadet who graduates from the NDA, that is National Defence Academy, is given a gold medal to celebrate this particular victory. So in the beginning, as I have already told you that this topic was also relevant from the prelims point of view. That is why this was a factual topic. Moreover, the topics from history are mostly factual in nature. So this was a very brief topic, but yes, you have gained certain important information related to the Ahom military commander Lachit Borphukan and the associated battles of Alaboi and Saraighat. So now is the time for the question of the day. The question asked in yesterday's DNS was in relation to the Financial Action Task Force. There were three statements given and you have to find the correct statement out of these three statements. The statement 1 said FATF is an international non-governmental body aimed at combating the money laundering and terror financing. Now this statement is incorrect because this is not a non-governmental body, rather it is an intergovernmental body aimed at combating the money laundering and terror financing. So that is why if you eliminate the first statement, you get only B option as the correct answer. The question from today's DNS is in relation to the fundamental duties. There are two statements given and you have to find the correct statement out of these two statements. The statement 1 says that fundamental duties in Indian Constitution are non-justiciable in nature, and a statement 2 says recognizing the complementary relationship between the fundamental duties and fundamental rights, our founding fathers added the duties under Article 51A of our Constitution. So option A is 1 only, B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D neither 1 nor 2.